You ever have one of those gut feelings? That kind you can't explain, but it won't leave you alone? That's what hit me that morning in April of 2000. New York was warming up after a long winter. I was still in my office, solo practice in Midtown, trying to deal with a pile of client files that came in half-finished. Nothing was going right. After an hour of staring at paperwork that made no sense, I said to hell with it and grabbed my gym shorts, sneakers, and a headband. I decided to jog home. It was about 2 miles. I figured I'd get some air, clear my head, and grab a set of notes I left at the apartment. Nothing complicated, or so I thought. Our place was on West 87th, in a quieter part of the Upper West Side. Not much foot traffic in the back alley unless you lived there. So when I saw a guy in a gray windbreaker walking ahead of me, heading toward our back gate, something felt wrong. He didn't belong there. That gate, dead end, only leads to a few private backyards, ours included, and I swear, I watched him push the gate open like he knew exactly where he was going. No hesitation, no knocking. He just slipped inside. That's when my heart started pounding. I knew my wife, Rachel, was working from home that day. She's a senior editor for Urban Life Weekly, a downtown lifestyle magazine. Stressful job, always on deadline. But she usually worked from the kitchen table, laptop open, coffee in hand. We'd been together for 6 years. I thought I knew her world. I didn't. I unlocked the patio door, which should have already been locked, and stepped inside. The apartment was quiet. Rachel's laptop was open, papers scattered around her usual seat, coffee cup still warm, but she wasn't there. Then I heard it. Faint, rhythmic sounds from upstairs. Not voices, just movement. I felt my chest tighten. There's a baton I keep in the dining cabinet. Old school, polished wood. Belonged to my grandfather when he was a cop. I grabbed it out of instinct. Not to hurt anyone. I wasn't thinking that far ahead. I just needed to know what the hell was going on. The stairs were carpeted, so I moved quietly. When I reached the bedroom door, I froze. It was closed. The sounds were clearer now. Not loud, just unmistakable. I turned the knob slowly, opened the door, and everything I thought I knew about my life cracked. Rachel was on the bed. She wasn't alone. The man, tall, lean, shirtless, was someone I'd seen once before at a magazine party. Eric Coleman, their lead photographer. He wasn't just visiting. They were together in a way no one but me was ever supposed to be with her. She didn't see me at first. Neither did he. I stepped into the room and struck the baton hard against his backside. The sound snapped through the air like a firecracker. He shouted and spun around. Rachel screamed, not in pain, in shock. Eric looked right at me, hands up, but didn't back down. I was invited, he said, like that made it okay. Rachel said nothing. He took a step forward. Put that down, or I'll take it from you. He was taller. He looked confident. But he didn't know me. I used to play competitive tennis. My backhand was lethal. When he lunged, and he did, I didn't think. I just swung. The baton landed across his forehead. He dropped instantly. No sound. No movement. I looked down at him. Then at Rachel. She hadn't moved. She looked like she'd left her body. Eyes wide. Lips parted. Her expression frozen somewhere between fear and shame. Then I noticed something on the dresser. A phone. Balanced upright. The screen was glowing, camera app still open. It had been recording. Everything. I picked it up. Looked at the screen. My hand was shaking. Then I called 911. This is Mark Davis, I said. I'm at my home on West 87th. A man came into my house. I believe he attacked me. I defended myself. He's unconscious. My wife is here. She's conscious but unresponsive. Please send help. They told me to step outside. To leave anything I used to defend myself inside. I placed the baton on the sofa. I walked out the front door. I stood in the middle of our tiny yard, staring down the street as the sirens got closer. And all I could think was, I was gone 10 minutes, and she let him in. The sirens hit like a drum roll. 2 NYPD cruisers and an ambulance pulled up, red and blue flashing across the sidewalk. The neighborhood started watching, faces in windows, but I just stood there, arms down, waiting. A female officer stepped out first. Short black hair, sharp eyes, steady voice. "You Mark Davis?" "Yeah," I said. "He's upstairs. My wife's there too. Something's wrong with her." They didn't reach for their guns, just nodded and followed me inside. I led them straight up to the bedroom. Eric was still lying there, out cold on the floor. My wife, Rachel, now wearing a robe someone must have tossed over her, sat at the edge of the bed, staring into nothing, like she wasn't even in the room. "Get EMS up here," the lead cop said. Another officer, a tall guy maybe in his late 20s, checked Eric's pulse. "He's alive, breathing, but not great." 2 paramedics came in fast, radioing for a stretcher. The older one looked at Eric and shook his head. "Head trauma. We'll stabilize and roll." I stepped back, not saying much. Honestly, I didn't know what to say. I was still in shock, even if my body had gone into lawyer mode. Sergeant Monroe, that was the name on her badge, walked Rachel into the guest room. She didn't resist, didn't even blink. I watched from the hallway, just stunned. My wife, the woman I married straight out of college, looked like someone else, like her soul had checked out. Back downstairs, another detective arrived. Alan Wright. I recognized him from court. We'd never worked together, but he knew me. He looked at me the way a doctor looks at a patient before giving bad news. "You the one who called it in?" "Yeah," I said, still standing near the kitchen. "Tell me everything. Start from the top." So I did. I told him about the work mess, the spontaneous jog, spotting the stranger cutting across my backyard. I told him how I followed him, found the door unlocked, how the sounds upstairs made my stomach drop, the baton, the swing, the man I knew as Eric Coleman, the lead photographer from my wife's magazine, unconscious on my floor. "You didn't recognize him until he turned around?" "No, not until I saw his face. Then it clicked. I'd met him once at a party. Barely knew him." Wright jotted things down, slow and deliberate. "You hit him twice? First one was, I don't even know why, to stop him. Second was after he threatened me and lunged. I aimed lower, but he moved, or ducked, and I caught his head." Wright nodded. "And your wife didn't say anything?" "No, not a word. Not before, not during, not after." He didn't say anything for a moment, then asked, "You believe she knew he was coming?" I hesitated. The back door wasn't locked. He walked right in. I don't know how else to explain it. "She looked out of it upstairs," he said, like not even registering what was going on. "We're testing her for anything that might have been in her system." I wanted to say I hoped she'd been drugged. That at least would have made sense of it. But deep down, I knew better. Wright walked to the dining table and picked up the phone I'd left there. "This his?" "Yeah." It was filming the whole thing, from before I got in. And the aftermath. He handed it off to a young officer. "Take it in. Priority evidence." Then he turned back to me. "What do you want to happen next?" I didn't know how to answer that. "I just want to understand what the hell happened," I finally said. Wright nodded like he'd heard that 100 times. "Then you'll need to wait. Let's see what the talk screen says. See what she says once she's herself again, if she's honest." Minutes later, Rachel was led down the steps and placed into the second ambulance. She didn't resist, didn't speak. She just walked like someone was pulling invisible strings. I changed clothes and followed them in my car. The whole drive to the hospital felt like floating. I was sweating, but my skin felt cold. I kept hearing the sounds I'd walked in on, echoing in my head like a loop I couldn't turn off. At the ER, I saw someone familiar in the waiting room. Eric's wife. She was tall, brunette, professionally dressed. I'd seen her once at a company function. She didn't see me, or pretended not to. She was staring at the hospital wall like it might give her answers. I didn't say anything. Rachel was in a small room, half asleep. An attending physician, Dr. Moore, came in a few minutes later. "You her husband?" "Yeah. She's stable physically, but mentally she's not all here. She's in what we call a dissociative state. Her brain disconnected to protect itself. We gave her something mild to help her rest. She should wake up in a few hours. Will she talk? Be herself? It varies. Sometimes it clears fast. Sometimes not. You'll know when she wakes up. So I waited. 3 hours. Didn't eat. Didn't move much. Just sat next to her in that cold, quiet room. At some point, she shifted under the blanket. Her eyes fluttered. And for the first time since I found her upstairs, she whispered, "I'm sorry, Mark." Just those words. And then she was gone again. A cold. I sat back in the chair and stared at the ceiling. I didn't feel better. I didn't feel worse. I just felt empty. I stayed by her side for maybe another hour after she whispered my name. Just sat there, wondering if she meant it. If "I'm sorry" was real, or just a reflex. When a nurse told me she wouldn't wake up for a while, I left. Said I'd be back in the morning. Back at the apartment, everything felt off. The light was too dim, the air too still. The same kitchen table, the same bookshelf, but the energy, gone. I sat down at my desk in the home office. Eric's phone was in my pocket. I wasn't sure why I took it. Maybe part instinct, part defense. Maybe I just needed the truth. The screen was cracked from when I hit him. Still, it lit up. The camera app had been running when I found it. I opened the gallery. There was one video. It started with a little movement. Rachel walking into the bedroom in a short robe. She looked comfortable, not nervous. She closed the door softly behind her and looked at someone just off camera. Then his voice. "You're beautiful, Rach. Exactly like I imagined." She smiled, sat on the edge of the bed. "Thanks, Eric. You always know how to say things." He walked into frame, taking off his shirt. He was already excited. I paused the video. I didn't want to see more. Not really. But I hit play anyway. Rachel leaned back, laughing at something he said. She pulled him close by the waistband of his jeans. Her tone, her eyes, all of it screamed one thing. This wasn't their first flirt. This wasn't her being pressured. This was her choosing. A minute later, they moved together onto the bed. That's when the video jolted, probably when I opened the door. Then, clear as day, the loud crack of wood hitting skin, his scream, Rachel's gasp, and then my voice calling 911. I watched it all. And when it ended, I didn't move. I didn't cry. I didn't throw the phone across the room. I didn't shout at the walls. I just sat there silent, because there was nothing left to imagine. No, maybe she was drugged. No, maybe he forced his way in. No room for doubt. She let him in. She invited him in. And she was happy about it. I transferred the video to my laptop. Then I backed up everything on the phone, messages, photos, contacts. I didn't want to keep it, but I wasn't stupid either. This wasn't just about feelings anymore. It was about facts. I left the phone on her desk. Before I left the room, I looked around. The couch where we used to drink wine on Friday nights. The bookshelf she loved to reorganize. All of it suddenly felt like a stage set. Like none of it was real. I went to bed in the guest room and barely slept. In the morning, I put on clean clothes, grabbed a bag, and headed out. I needed distance. Mental, physical, emotional. I didn't tell Rachel I was leaving the apartment. I just left. At the office, I sat in silence for a while, then called a real estate contact. Asked if she had any short-term leases. Studio, Midtown, nothing fancy. "Yeah," she said. "Got one. Empty. View's nice. 1 month minimum. You in?" "Yeah," I said. "I'm in." I didn't even ask how much. I closed my eyes at my desk that afternoon and realized I still loved her. I loved her more than I wanted to admit. But I'd never be able to look at her the same way again. And I don't know what's worse. Knowing she betrayed me, or knowing I'd take her back in a second if I thought she meant it. I came back that evening. Not because I missed her. Not because I forgave anything. But because it was still technically my home. And because I needed to hear what she'd say, face to face with nowhere to run. When I walked in, Rachel was in the kitchen. She looked small. her hair tied back, wearing a loose sweatshirt and socks. She had barely touched her food, just a bowl of salad sitting there, untouched, like she'd made the effort but didn't have the will. She looked up at me. "Hey," she said quietly. I nodded. "Smells like spaghetti. Didn't know if you'd be hungry." "I'm not." We stood there in silence. The kind that builds up in your chest and makes your skin itch. "You want to talk now?" I asked. She nodded slowly. We walked into the living room. She sat in the rocking chair near the window. I sat opposite her on the edge of the couch. A few feet between us. More distance than that inside. She rubbed her palms together and took a breath. "Mark, I want to say I'm sorry. Again. And I want to try to explain. I don't know if anything I say will make sense, but I need you to hear it." I nodded. My face didn't move. She looked at the floor, then at me. "Eric, I've worked with him for years, since I started at Urban Life. At first, he was just one of the guys. Talented, kind of arrogant, but nothing special to me. We'd say hi, talk about layouts, joke at photo shoots." She paused. "But a few months ago, something changed. He started noticing me. Really noticing." I waited, said nothing. He'd comment on how I looked, light touches on my arm, little smiles that lingered longer than they should. And I know how that sounds. I know it's a cliché, but I felt seen. Not as a coworker, as a woman. I clenched my hands together. She saw it. "I didn't plan anything, Mark, I swear. But we went to lunch one day, just the two of us. He said he always thought I was incredible, that he'd been holding it in for years. He said he couldn't stop anymore." "And you?" I asked. My voice was steady. Too steady. I was flattered. I told myself it was harmless. But I knew it wasn't. I liked it. It scared me how much I liked it. He made me feel alive. I know how awful that sounds. I looked away, for a second. But I didn't act on it. "Not at first," she went on. "We kissed once. In his car. 2 days before that day." "Just kissed?" I asked. She hesitated. "We touched. But we didn't go further." I stopped it. "You invited him here, Rachel?" Her eyes welled up. "I know. I told him you'd be at work. I told him to come by. I told myself it would be once. Just to, I don't even know, to feel something wild. Something different." I stood up. Couldn't sit anymore. "You were married. To me." I know, she said, voice shaking. "You've always been good to me. You've always loved me. But I started feeling like, I don't know, like I was disappearing. Like life was just repeating." I shook my head. "So your answer was to sleep with someone else?" Her tears started, but I didn't care. "Mark, I never stopped loving you. You showed a hell of a way of proving that. I was stupid, weak. I got caught up. And then you came in and I saw your face, and I knew everything had shattered." I looked down at the floor, took a long breath, then looked right at her. "I watched the video, Rachel." She froze. "I saw everything. Your robe, your smile, your words. Don't tell me it was an impulse. You wanted him." You were ready for him before he even walked in. You weren't scared. You were excited." She didn't deny it. She couldn't. The silence between us stretched like wire. Then she whispered, "Are we done?" I didn't answer right away, but I knew the answer, even if I couldn't say it out loud yet. We agreed to take space. I didn't say the word divorce out loud. Not yet. But it was hanging there just below the ceiling in every room we didn't talk in. I moved into a small studio apartment near my office. No furniture, no photos. Just a mattress, a desk, and too much silence. Before I left, I handed her a document, simple, clean. A separation agreement. We'd live apart, split our finances, no physical contact. And the key part, no intimacy with other people. Not while we figured this out. If either of us crossed that line, the agreement said, the other had the right to push for divorce immediately. No waiting, no lawyers fighting, just done. She read it with tears in her eyes. Didn't argue. Just asked, "Can I have a few days?" "My mom's coming." I said yes. Maybe I was still soft. Or maybe I just didn't want to be the one who shut the door all the way. We signed it the next morning. She stayed in the apartment. I moved out. That week passed slow. I worked long hours, answered only the calls I had to. Her number lit up my phone a few times. I didn't answer. No voicemails. Just silence, followed by more silence. Saturday rolled around. Cold wind, gray sky. I went for a walk through Riverside Park to clear my head. For some reason, I found myself drifting back toward our old place. Not to see her. I told myself that. Just closure. When I reached the patio door, I knocked lightly. Her mom, Tess, answered. She looked surprised. Nervous. "Mark, you caught me off guard. Is Rachel here?" She stepped out. "Should be back soon." I nodded slowly. Something in her voice felt wrong. "She doing okay?" Tess gave me the kind of look people give when they want to lie but know they can't. "She's confused. A little fragile. Trying to keep it together." I stepped inside. The house looked lived in again. Flowers in a vase. New groceries. The kind of normal you only try to build fast when you've wrecked something big. Then I heard it. Car doors closing. I looked out the front window just in time to see a shiny black Mustang pull up. A blonde guy in a leather jacket stepped out, walked around, and opened the passenger door. Rachel climbed out. She was dressed for a date. Jeans that fit a little too well. Tight sweater. Lipstick. They laughed at something. She touched his arm. I opened the door and stepped outside. She saw me first. Froze. He looked at me, confused, then cautious. "Hey," I said calmly. "Rachel, who's your friend?" She swallowed. "This is James. From work." James stepped back a little. "Look, man, I don't want any trouble. I was just... You were just doing exactly what the agreement says would end this." "Mark," Rachel started. I held up a hand. "Save it." James looked at her. "I'm gonna go." She nodded. "Yeah, go." He left quick. Car peeled off down the block. I turned to her. She couldn't meet my eyes. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "Sorry you got caught," I said. "No, I didn't want to be alone. I didn't know what we were. And he was nice. I felt like I didn't matter to you anymore." "Then why did you sign the agreement?" "I thought I could do it. I thought I could wait. She looked up at me finally. "I'm weak, Mark. That's the truth. I don't know why I did it. But I love you." I laughed. "Not mean, just tired. You love me." And less than a week later, you're kissing a guy in a Mustang on the front lawn. It wasn't like that. It's always like that. I looked past her, toward the house that used to be home. You broke it, Rachel. The one rule that meant something. I didn't sleep with him. I don't care. You made the choice. You showed me who you are. Her face crumpled, but I didn't reach out. "Not this time. I'll file the papers this week," I said. And then I walked away. No yelling. No fight. Just the sound of my footsteps fading as she stood there, shaking. And that was the end of whatever we still had. We finalized the divorce on a Wednesday. Downtown courthouse. 10 a.m. quiet. Clean. Cold. The judge didn't ask many questions. We didn't fight. We just nodded through the legal parts like two co-workers wrapping up a failed project. After 6 years of marriage, it took 13 minutes to make it all go away. When we stepped out of the building, she turned to me. "Mark, lunch." I looked at her. No makeup. Hair down. Eyes tired. "You want lunch?" I asked. "I'll pay." I thought about saying no. I really did. But instead, I said, "Sure." We went to a place a few blocks away, Baystone Grill. Booth in the back. Far from the noise. We didn't order much. I got an appetizer. She just had soup. Mostly, we sat in silence. Until she broke it. "I messed up your life," she said. I didn't answer. "I saw a therapist," she went on. "She says maybe I was scared of becoming a mom. Scared of locking in. I don't know. Maybe I'm just messed up." "You wanted Eric." She nodded. "Yeah, I really did." I raised an eyebrow. "But not like I wanted you," she added. I don't even understand it myself. He reminded me of someone. My first. The guy I lost it to. Maybe that's what I was chasing. Not Eric. Just some version of me that doesn't exist anymore. I looked at her. I never wanted to hurt you, Mark. But I did. And I own that. Then she paused. Smiled just barely. You still look good in that jacket. I scoffed. You're unbelievable. Maybe. But you still make my stomach flip. And I saw the way you looked at me when we walked in here. You remember. I didn't deny it. The waitress dropped off the check. Rachel tossed a bill on the table without looking. Then she stood up. Come on, she said. Where? My place. I'm not. She cut me off. We're not married anymore. No rules. You want it. I know you do. I should have walked away. Instead, I followed her. Her apartment was only a few blocks away. She unlocked the door, stepped inside, and let it swing open behind her. I walked in. She turned, grabbed me by the collar, and kissed me. There was nothing soft about it. It wasn't romantic. It was raw. She pulled me toward the bedroom like she couldn't wait another second. Clothes hit the floor. We didn't speak. Just motion. Just breath. Just that fire that never quite went out between us, no matter how ugly the end had been. After we lay there, neither of us said anything for a long time. Then she whispered, "Best I've ever had." Still, I didn't respond, because I didn't trust myself to speak. Later, as we shared some leftover takeout, she looked across the table and said, "What are we doing?" I didn't have an answer. She smiled again, this time with less pain. "I'm not asking for anything," she said. "But if you ever want that again, just say the word." I should have said no. I didn't. And that was the beginning of something strange. Something real. Something I didn't know what to call. Because love was gone. But chemistry? Chemistry was still undefeated. It had been a couple weeks since the divorce. Rachel and I weren't talking much. Sometimes we did. Usually late at night. Mostly short, strange calls. Like neither of us knew why we were dialing. But neither of us could stop. We hooked up twice more. Both times started the same way. A message, a look, then two people who couldn't quite let go of the fire, even if the forest around it had already burned down. But I knew this couldn't last. We were divorced for a reason. And even if the body still remembered, the soul had moved on. Then one afternoon, I walked into a diner not far from my office, and saw her, Emma, the waitress. She was the same one who had served us lunch the day of the divorce. I hadn't really noticed her then, or maybe I just couldn't, not with Rachel across the table. But now I saw her. Blonde hair in a braid. Sharp blue eyes. Calm confidence in the way she moved. Simple, quiet strength. She spotted me right away. Smiled. "Mark, right?" she said, walking over. "You remember?" She chuckled. Hard to forget the guy who left his food untouched and stormed out with his ex-wife. I laughed, a little embarrassed. "Yeah, that was me." "You doing okay?" she asked, sincere. "As okay as I can be." "You want a booth?" "I want to buy you dinner." That stopped her for a second. Then she tilted her head. "Tonight?" "Yeah, I cook. Fried chicken. Real stuff, not takeout." She narrowed her eyes. "You cook. Law school. Tight budget." I got creative. She grinned. "Okay, counselor. I get off at 6. That night, she showed up at my place in a simple dress and sandals. No makeup. Didn't need it. We ate on the small balcony of my new apartment. I had one folding table, 2 mismatched chairs, and the best meal I'd cooked in months. She laughed a lot, asked questions, listened without interrupting. She told me she was 25, part-time model, waitressing to pay the bills. Her last boyfriend had left almost a year ago, moved out suddenly, never gave her closure. We understood each other in that unspoken way people do when they've both been dropped hard. After dinner, we didn't kiss, didn't even hug long. She touched my hand and said, "Thanks for feeding me real food." That was it. But I couldn't stop thinking about her the next day, or the one after. We went out again 2 nights later, this time to the park. sat on a bench, talked about childhood, music, food we missed from when we were kids. Still no kiss. But something was building. On the third date, she leaned in first. It was soft. It was slow. Felt safe. Later that night, we made love. Not like I had with Rachel. Fast and desperate. This was different. This was gentle. Curious. Warm. When we were done, she looked at me and said, "I haven't felt that close to anyone in years." Neither had I. I went home the next day and deleted Rachel's number. She called twice that week. I didn't answer, because for the first time in a long, long while, I didn't want to. Emma moved in after 3 months. It wasn't planned. She started staying over a few nights a week. Then she brought a toothbrush. Then a drawer. Then suddenly it didn't make sense for her to pay rent somewhere else. She brought warmth into my apartment. Real warmth. Plants on the windowsill. Coffee in the mornings. Soft playlists while we cleaned up after dinner. I started smiling again. At work, people noticed. My clients noticed. Even my posture changed. One of my colleagues said, "You look like a man who finally slept for 8 hours." I didn't just sleep. I rested. We talked about kids early on. We both wanted them. No pressure, no timelines, but we knew where it was going. And for the first time in my life, I didn't feel trapped by that idea. I felt excited. 3 months turned into 6. Then I proposed. Simple. No grand speech. No skywriting. Just us walking along the East River. I stopped, pulled out a ring and said, "Emma, will you build this life with me?" She cried. Said yes. We got married in the fall. Intimate ceremony. Friends. A few family members. Her mom flew in from Chicago. My dad gave a toast. We kept it light, fun, and honest. I invited Rachel. Don't ask me why. Maybe closure. Maybe kindness. Maybe because she was still part of the story, even if she no longer played the lead. She came. Alone. Wore a navy dress. Sat near the back. Didn't cry. After the ceremony, I introduced her to Emma. Rachel smiled. Polite but quiet. "You look beautiful," she told Emma. "He's lucky." Emma nodded. I know. I could tell Rachel meant it. But I also saw something in her eyes. Something small, and buried, and aching. I didn't dwell on it. We honeymooned in the Bahamas. Sunday sand. No schedules. When we got home, life clicked into place. We moved into a small house in the suburbs. Close to the city, but far enough that we could breathe. Backyard. Breakfast nook. One day a nursery. Everything felt earned. Years passed fast. 2 kids. Promotion. Emma opened a boutique photography business. Our days got loud, joyful, chaotic. I came home tired but fulfilled. She made every room brighter just by walking into it. And then, Rachel moved into the same town. She'd married too. Some guy from her new job. Brian. Accountant. Steady. Quiet. They had 2 boys. Lived 3 blocks from us. We ran into each other at the playground. She was pushing a stroller. I was chasing my daughter, Lily. We both froze for a second, then smiled. Like adults. Like strangers who once knew everything about each other. Over time, we bumped into each other more often. Grocery store, school events, community meetings. Our kids ended up in the same pre-K class. Emma and Rachel actually got along. It was surreal. At one school fundraiser, Rachel and I got paired to run the silent auction table. We passed notes. Laughed at inside jokes. Nothing serious. But I could feel it, the memory. Later that night, Emma asked, "Is it ever weird? Seeing her?" I thought about it. "Yes," I said. "But not in a bad way. Just complicated." She nodded. "I trust you." I kissed her forehead. I know. That night I dreamed about Rachel. Not the betrayal. Not the hurt. Just a version of us that never happened. But in the morning, I looked over at Emma. Still asleep, one arm over the pillow, and knew exactly where I belonged. Whatever Rachel and I had was a closed chapter. And Emma? Emma was the rest of the book. It happened on a rainy Saturday afternoon. School baseball league, the dad's team. Nothing fancy. Just a bunch of guys trying to stay in shape and feel useful. I was on third base, watching the pitch when I heard someone call my name. Brian, Rachel's husband. He walked over, glove in hand, polite nod. "Got a minute?" he asked. "Sure." We stepped aside under the bleachers. He looked calm. Too calm. "You and Rachel ever talk much?" I shrugged. "We see each other. Small town. Same kids' school." He nodded. "She says you're solid. No weirdness. But you're wondering if something's still there." "Yeah." There was silence between us for a few seconds. The kind men aren't trained to handle well. Then I said, "No, nothing's there now." Brian looked at me. "But there was, right?" I met his eyes. "Yes, once." He didn't flinch, just breathed. I figured, you two look at each other like people who've been through fire. I let out a small laugh. "We were the fire." He looked down at his glove, then back at me. "She says she's changed, settled." "You believe that?" "I think she wants to be good," I said. "And I think you help her do that." That wasn't the full truth, but it was close enough. We played the rest of the game like nothing happened. That's how men do it sometimes. Talk about something massive, then pretend it was small. After the game, I went home. Emma had the kids drawing on the floor, crayons everywhere. She smiled when she saw me, hair in a messy bun, wearing one of my old hoodies. I kissed her, held her for a long second, and in that moment, I knew something I hadn't said out loud, even to myself. Rachel would always be a part of my past. But Emma was my forever. And sometimes you don't need revenge. You just need peace.